walked into a local bookstore and I saw a signature on the wall from this author, and I asked the bookshop keeper a little bit about that signature because it had a robot drawn. Now, I have spent many hours of my life with these three robots, so I immediately kind of was drawn to the robot drawing, and he said, oh, well, that's a trilogy, and it's called the Wild Robot series, and it's going to be turned into a movie by DreamWorks very soon. So I immediately went to watch the trailer, and I was so hooked, and I wanted to investigate why a series for young children like this would be turned into a huge, blockbuster film by such a great animation studio, and have one of the world's most beautiful actresses voicing this robot. So I was like very intrigued, and I went in with a very skeptical eye. I wanted to do kind of like a close reading and say, does this really deserve? It does. It's so good. I love it. I went in with a lot of questions, and I'm going to present this to you kind of as I took it in. So first of all, what is the series about? We follow a robot named Roz. Now, Roz is the female robot, so you can answer that question to yourself as to what that means exactly. But she kind of washes up on shore with many other robots that crash into the rocks, and she's accidentally turned on and put together by a bunch of otters, and she starts investigating this island. Like, we know it's an island from the beginning based on the circumstances, but she's on an island with a lot of animals. Because Roz is technically an introduction to children about AI, she's a lot more like that robot from The Incredibles, where the more something happens to her, the more she learns from it and grows from that experience. But because she washes up on this island with animals, she picks up animals' behaviors, and each animal of different species has different habits, different things inside of them, like different instincts that make them what they are as animals. And she kind of picks up from all of them a little bit and slowly grows as a robot person. And along the way, she also kind of becomes a mother to a little goose. It does raise a lot of questions about, what does it mean for a robot to be a mother? Or is she a mother just because she happened to be labeled or named after a female name? We get more of these questions around like her femininity or her femaleness as a robot in the third book, but she kind of acknowledges that as a robot she's kind of neither. But I do wonder, for example, if her maternal role is kind of taken on because she's a female robot, or at least her caretaking abilities, and she does pick up from other animals what it means to care for your own young. So that's kind of like the first book. And then in the second book, she is taken away from this island and put on a farm, and we start with a different kind of farm and different dynamics. We start to interact with humans, and through the third book, it kind of zooms out a bit more, where the first book is kind of this robot taking it all in, and the second book is about getting back home to her baby and her island, and it's a little bit darker. The third one is almost like there's an external threat to the island. It is kind of engaging with, environmental issues and themes and pollution and things being kind of threatening to the island, and her having to go out and save it. And here we deal a lot more with the ocean, and there's a lot in here that's very sort of green, eco-friendly, but I found that it engages with the idea of both robots and the future in a way that's kind of more hopeful than what I've seen other people do with such a theme. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about its construction just in terms of writing. This is great for children between ages of like 7 and 10 or 7 and 11. The language is very simple, it's to the point. The chapters are really, really short. So you get this kind of momentum, and you feel very accomplished very fast because you get through these chapters so fast. Like by the time I stopped reading my first session, I was already on chapter like 45, and it felt really good. But for children, I think that's kind of a great momentum kind of thing to keep them into the reading and keep them motivated to keep going. Also incredible illustrations throughout. They are in grayscale, but it does put the whole thing kind of in perspective, and they're really whimsical and cute. And it's really nice to see all the illustrations laid out. And the language is very simple and easy to understand, so it kind of makes for great like a read aloud to your kid at night or to your class, because if the bell rings or something, the chapters are so short, you can just put a pause wherever you are. Those technical terms of readership, I think these are great for those like younger children. But in their simplicity, there's a lot to unpack here, and I think there's a lot to discuss, and I do wonder if it's because of its simplicity that you can stop and ponder and think about more things as you go along, because it's so simple, and then your brain just kind of takes off. Like, I ask myself so many questions about, you know, what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a robot, what AI can do in the future, what about the environment, what if she had been on an island full of humans first, and that's where she picked up her first initial instincts and behaviors. Would she be violent? Would she be brutal to the land? Like, what would it mean if humans were introduced to her first? Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, I think, and a lot of interesting and fun discussions could be had with children over these books, and to introduce them to both AI and concepts of environmentalism. There's also something exploratory, at least in the first book, as she's learning and growing, that sort of reminded me of the Patrick Rothfuss novella, where this very foreign character is examining things one by one in a very slow way, like taking it all in. And it's just fascinating to see our own world through the eyes of someone that kind of doesn't really have feelings or emotions, but it is observing them in a very sort of detached way. Now, lastly, I'm going to leave you with a quote, because the author addressed this kind of robot animal thing and what it means to have an instinct. And I think this kind of sparked something in me that just wanted to keep reading as well. So this was at the end of the first book, but it wasn't in the print copy. It was in the PDF attached to the audiobook that I found this quote. So he said, "Animals have such predictable behavior and follow such rigid routines that at times they seem almost robotic. And somewhere along the line, it occurred to me that animal instincts are kind of like computer programs. Thanks to their instincts, animals automatically run from danger, build nests, and stay close to their families, and they often do these things without thinking, as if they've been programmed to perform specific actions at specific times. Surprisingly, wild animals and robots actually have some things in common." And the reason I loved this quote is because there are scenes, even in the first book, but definitely in the second one, where Roz misses Brightbill, or misses and is worried about her adopted child. And I do wonder, you know, how much of that instinct, I mean, those are feelings, right? Being worried, being concerned, missing someone. You wonder how much of that is just kind of built into the program because she picked up animal instincts. And then you wonder, like, I know there's bigger philosophical questions out there about free will and how, based on where we were born, where we were raised, and the culture around us, we've been told and programmed to think a certain way. And you think that it was your choice, but the reality is it was kind of programmed into you from early on to think that way and to think that that's the right thing to do. So I think it kind of like, the more you dig into it, the bigger questions appear and there's more to discuss. And I think it's such a great introduction for children, at least, to some of these concepts. And again, it's using language that's very accessible. So I think it's a great start for like a reading group or bonding with your kid or with a class. They're a lot of fun, and I sprinted through them. It took me like a book a day, you know. It was just so much fun. And yeah, if you like robots, you might really enjoy this book, Trilogy. And I hope the movie lives up to the books. I really do, because there's some great material to work with. That's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Bye.